The auction hall was filled with cold light. Long rows of buyers sat on iron benches waiting for the next one to be dragged out. Their eyes did not show mercy, only judgment. The guards opened a gate, and a thin alien girl stepped forward. Shackles rattled on her wrists and ankles. Her head was bowed low, her long silver hair falling like a curtain to hide her face. The announcer shouted her number. Lot 17! Rejected by 7 owners already. Declared faulty, broken, and returned each time. His voice echoed through the hall like a hammer. The crowd laughed. Some spat. A few shouted cruel things. Not worth the price of food. Throw her back into the pits. The girl's chest tightened. She had heard all of this before. Each rejection was a knife. She had been bought, tested, and then sent back like a cracked tool. No one wanted her. No one believed she had any value. But inside, a small flame still burned. She had once dreamed of belonging somewhere. She had once dreamed of being seen as more than broken. The announcer slammed his staff. Step forward, girl. Show them your face. Slowly, she raised her chin. Her eyes glowed faint blue, trembling with fear, yet sharp with quiet defiance. Scars traced her arms where former masters had left their mark. The hall went silent for a moment. She was beautiful, yes, but not in the way buyers liked. She was beautiful like a storm, like something too wild to control. One merchant shook his head. I tried her once, useless, she won't obey. Another snorted. She cries at night. Can't even finish simple work. A third waved his hand. Weak. Always weak, broken. The announcer's voice grew sharper. Who will take her? Lowest price. If unsold, she will be discarded. The word discarded hit her harder than the chains ever had. She lowered her eyes again. Maybe this was it. Maybe tonight she would be thrown into the pits where broken ones went, never to return. The guards pushed her forward. Her knees shook. A cruel buyer grabbed her chin, forcing her to look up. He smirked. Not even worth betting. Laughter rippled through the hall. The girl's heart hammered. She wanted to scream, but she stayed silent. She had learned silence kept her alive. The announcer grew impatient. Last call. Does no one want her? Rejected 7 times. Who will waste coin on this one? And then, quiet footsteps echoed in the hall. Everyone turned. A human man stood at the back, unlike the others. He wore no rich robes, no merchant's jewels. His clothes were plain, dusty from travel. His eyes, however, were steady and alive. The announcer frowned. You, stranger? Do you want to see the lot? The human's gaze locked onto the girl. She expected disgust. She expected laughter. Instead, he tilted his head slightly, studying her like she was more than a failed object. She's been returned 7 times, the announcer barked. Broken, useless. Waste of coin. The man's voice was calm, but it carried through the room. Maybe she's not broken. Maybe the ones who bought her were. The hall erupted with mocking laughter. Buyers clapped their knees, shaking their heads at his foolishness. But the girl's breath caught. Her eyes lifted to meet his. For the first time, someone had not looked at her as trash. For the first time, someone had not called her weak. The announcer sneered. So what? Will you place a bid on this piece of failure? The man stepped closer. The chains rattled as the girl's shoulders trembled. I don't bid for tools, he said slowly. His eyes stayed fixed on hers. I want her not as broken, not as discarded. I want her as she is. The hall froze. Even the guards blinked in shock, and in that moment the girl's world shifted. The auction hall did not know how to react. Buyers who had seen countless sales and countless slaves were suddenly speechless. The human's words, I want her as she is, hung in the air like thunder. The announcer narrowed his eyes. He leaned on his staff and sneered. You don't understand, human. She is not worth the food you will feed her. She breaks under orders. She is a failure. The human did not blink. He kept looking at the girl. She stood frozen, her heart pounding louder than the crowd's whispers. Nobody had ever spoken for her before. Nobody had ever said they wanted her, not truly. One fat merchant laughed. Foolish human. You'll regret wasting coin. She'll cry, she'll resist, and she'll never serve you. The human's lips curved slightly. Not into a smile, but into something sharper. Like he knew a secret no one else could see. Then maybe she doesn't need to serve. Maybe she just needs to be free. The hall exploded. Shouts of anger, disbelief, and mocking laughter crashed together. The announcer slammed his staff against the platform. Quiet. His voice shook more from unease than authority. He had seen humans before, but none like this one. The girl's chest rose and fell. She felt dizzy, as if the world around her was tilting. Was this man insane? Did he not understand the price of such words? In this place, freedom was nothing but a dream. To say it aloud was dangerous. The guards stepped forward, hands on their blades. Is this human mocking the trade? One asked, voice rough with suspicion. The human raised one hand, calm as stone. I mock nothing. I offer coin. She belongs to no one until she belongs to me. That is the rule, isn't it? The announcer's jaw tightened. It is the rule, he admitted, though the words tasted bitter on his tongue. Coins clinked as the human dropped a small pouch onto the wooden table. Not a heavy pouch, not enough for the wealthy merchants to care, but enough to meet the price of one considered worthless. The announcer glared. She is yours then, stranger, take her. But don't come crying when she disappoints you like she disappointed the others. The human ignored him. His eyes never left the girl. Slowly he walked toward her. The girl's breath shook. She wanted to step back, but her chains held her in place. She wanted to speak, but her voice was trapped in her throat. He stopped only a step away. His voice was low now, meant for her ears alone. They called you broken. But I see something else, do you? Her lips parted, but no sound came. She felt like the ground under her had cracked open, showing a path she never thought existed. The guards unlocked her chains with a clatter. Cold iron slipped away from her wrists. For the first time in years, she stood without bonds. The skin beneath her shackles was raw and red, but her hands trembled with strange new energy. The human extended his hand, palm open. Not demanding, not commanding, simply offering. The crowd watched with cruel curiosity. Some whispered that she would spit in his face. Others laughed, betting she would run. But the girl stared at his hand. Her chest felt heavy, her throat dry, her heart racing. No one had ever offered her a choice before. Not once. Her fingers twitched. Slowly, painfully, she lifted her own hand and placed it in his. Gasps filled the hall. The merchants leaned forward. The announcer's jaw dropped. The human's grip was steady, warm, and firm. He did not drag her. He did not bind her. He simply held her hand like it was the most natural thing in the world. The girl's mind spun. She did not know if he was a fool, a liar, or something more dangerous. But for the first time since she could remember, she felt like maybe, just maybe, she had been seen. As they walked out of the auction hall together, the whispers turned into roars. The crowd mocked, the merchants cursed, and the announcer spat on the floor. But none of their noise mattered anymore. Because in that moment, the broken girl realized something terrifying and wonderful. Her life had just begun. The heavy doors of the auction hall groaned as they swung open. Cold night air rushed inside, washing away the stench of sweat and iron. The girl blinked against the sudden freedom of open space. For years she had only known dark cells, crowded pits, and the burning lights of the auction stage. Now stars stretched endlessly above her. They shimmered like eyes that actually saw her. She almost staggered beneath their weight. The human did not rush her. His hand remained firm around hers, steady as an anchor in a storm. He glanced down at her face, saw her trembling lips, and said nothing. Sometimes silence was kinder than words. Behind them, the crowd still shouted from within the hall. Fool! She'll betray you! Broken girl. Their voices grew smaller as the doors slammed shut, cutting them off. For the first time in years, there was no guard at her back. No chain on her wrist. No whip waiting for her mistakes. Her chest rose and fell too quickly. She looked at the human with wide, uncertain eyes. Why? The word cracked, dry from silence and fear. Why did you take me? He stopped in the shadow of a ruined archway. Lantern light from the hall spilled faintly across his face, highlighting his calm expression. Because they were wrong, he said simply. You're not broken. You're alive. That's enough, she froze. The words dug deep, almost painful, as if they were touching wounds that had never healed. Alive. That's enough. Nobody had ever told her that before. Still, suspicion clawed at her. She had been fooled before. Buyers had promised kindness only to punish her the moment she failed to please them. Her voice shook. What do you want me to do for you? His brows lifted slightly, then softened. Nothing. The word hit harder than any whip. Nothing. She stared at him, confused, her throat tightening. Then why buy me? Why waste your coin? He glanced at the stars overhead. Because sometimes the right thing to do is the hardest thing. And sometimes, it changes everything. She didn't understand. Her mind spun trying to find the trap, but there was no mockery in his eyes, no greed, no hunger. Only something she had never seen before. Patience. They walked through the narrow streets of the alien city. Market stalls were closing, shutters banging as merchants locked their wares away. The girl shrank at every sound, flinched when shadows moved. She expected someone to drag her back at any moment. But the human walked beside her, calm and steady as if the whole world belonged to him. Passers-by gave him strange looks. A human holding the hand of a broken alien girl was not something they saw every day. Whispers followed them like wind. The girl's stomach growled suddenly, loud in the silence. She stiffened, ashamed, remembering punishments she had once received for hungers she could not control. The human glanced at her, then without a word, turned down a side street. He stopped at a food stall still burning its lamps. He bought a small loaf of bread and held it out to her. Her hand shook. She stared at it like it was a trick. "Eat," he said gently. Slowly she took it. The bread was warm. The first bite nearly brought tears to her eyes. She tried to hide it, but he noticed. His gaze softened, though he said nothing. They found a quiet place near a stone wall. The girl finished the bread in silence, every bite strange and precious. Finally, she whispered almost to herself, "You don't know me. You don't know what I've done. You don't know why they call me broken." The human leaned back against the wall, arms folded. His voice was calm but firm. "Then tell me, when you're ready. But whatever it is, it doesn't change what I see now." Her throat tightened. She looked down, hands curling around the last crumbs of bread. For the first time, she wondered if maybe she was not doomed to be broken forever. But deep inside, another fear stirred. If he truly wanted nothing from her, then why did his words make her heart race faster than chains ever had? The girl could not sleep that night. The human had found a small shelter at the edge of the city, an old storehouse with broken walls and a roof that barely kept out the wind. It was nothing compared to the palaces of the merchants, but to her, it felt strange and terrifying because it was not a cage. She sat curled against the wall, knees hugged to her chest. The bread still warmed her belly, but her mind was restless. Freedom was not something she understood. Chains she understood. Commands, punishments, rejection, those were clear. But silence and choice, those were heavier than iron. The human lay nearby, his cloak pulled over his shoulders. He had closed his eyes, but his breathing told her he was not fully asleep. Perhaps he knew she might run. Perhaps he expected it. Her eyes traced the scars on her wrists where the shackles had cut deep. She whispered into the darkness, almost afraid to hear her own voice. "They call me broken for a reason." The human's eyes opened slowly. He didn't move closer, didn't force her to continue. He simply asked, "What reason?" Her throat tightened. Memories stabbed like knives. "I failed them," she said. "Every master. Every task. I could not be what they wanted." The words spilled out like poison. She told him how one master demanded silence, but she had wept at night until he returned her. Another wanted her strong, but she collapsed under endless labor. A third tried to shape her into something cold and obedient, but she fought back once, and was beaten until she could no longer stand. "They all hated me," she whispered. "Each time they sent me back. Each time they told the world I was worthless, that I was too weak, too fragile, too—" Her voice cracked. "Too broken." The human listened without interrupting. He did not sneer or sigh. His steady eyes stayed fixed on her, not with pity but with understanding. At last, when her words dissolved into silence, he spoke. "Do you think failing cruel masters makes you broken? Or does it mean their cruelty could not shape you?" She looked at him sharply, breath caught in her throat. No one had ever said that before. "They wanted you to be less," he continued. "You refused. That is not weakness. That is strength." Her heart raced. She wanted to believe him, but fear clawed at her ribs. "But strength doesn't stop the pain," she whispered. "Strength doesn't stop the rejection." His voice softened. "No, but it means you're still here despite it." The words dug deep, carving something new inside her. She pressed her forehead against her knees, hiding the tears that finally escaped. Not from shame, not from punishment, but from the unbearable weight of being seen. The night stretched on. Silence wrapped around them, broken only by the faint hum of the city in the distance. At last, she asked, fragile and trembling, "Why do you care?" You could have chosen anyone else, why me? The human leaned back against the wall, gazing at the stars through the cracks in the roof. Because everyone deserves one person to stand beside them, and maybe you've never had that before. Her breath shook. He was right. She had never had that. Something flickered inside her, hope, fragile and dangerous. But with hope came fear. What if he changed his mind? What if he too grew tired of her? She lay down on the cold floor, curling tighter. Sleep finally pulled at her eyes, but her thoughts whispered warnings. And yet as her eyelids grew heavy, she realized something strange. For the first time in years, she was not waiting for footsteps, not bracing for pain. She was afraid, yes, but she was also safe. Outside, the city slept. Inside, the broken girl dreamed for the first time in a long time. And in the shadows, the human kept watch, his eyes awake, knowing her past was only the beginning, and that greater dangers would come for them both. Morning broke with a pale light crawling through the cracks of the ruined storehouse. The girl stirred awake, her body stiff from the stone floor. For a moment she forgot where she was. There were no chains biting her wrists, no guards shouting, only the sound of footsteps outside and the steady breathing of the human beside her. But freedom was never left alone for long. The human stood, his cloak brushing dust from the floor. "We can't stay here," he said. "They'll come." The girl's stomach turned cold. "They?" He nodded. "The merchants don't forgive insults. I didn't just buy you, I challenged their trade. They'll want revenge." Before his words faded, shouts echoed in the street. Heavy boots pounded the ground, armor clinked. The girl's blood froze. She had heard that sound too many times before. The human pulled her gently to her feet. "Stay close." The storehouse door burst open. 3 guards stormed inside, spears raised. Their leader sneered. "Stranger, hand over the broken one. She belongs to the hall." The girl's breath came in gasps. She wanted to hide, to vanish into the shadows. Her body trembled. Every part of her screamed, "They always take you back." But the human stepped forward, calm as stone. "She's mine. Bought fair and clear." "You have no claim." The guard laughed, a harsh metallic sound. "You think coin protects you? No, human. She is property, and property cannot be free." The human's hand rested on the hilt of a small blade at his belt. His voice was low but sharp. "Then you'll have to take her from me." The guards lunged. The fight was brutal and fast. The human moved with the precision of someone who had survived worse battles. He dodged the first spear, slammed his shoulder into the second guard, and twisted his blade through the gap in armor. Metal clashed, shouts filled the air, and dust swirled. The girl pressed against the wall, heart hammering. Fear chained her body, but her eyes could not look away. This man was not like the merchants who barked orders. He fought not for coin, not for pride. He fought because he had chosen her. Within moments, 2 guards lay groaning on the floor. The leader staggered back, clutching a wound, his face twisted with rage. "You'll regret this, human. The hall will hunt you both." He stumbled out, dragging the others with him. Silence returned, broken only by the girl's ragged breaths. The human wiped his blade and turned to her. His voice softened again, as if the fight had never happened. "We need to move. They'll bring more." Her body shook so badly she could hardly stand. You fought for me," she whispered, the words trembling from her lips. He gave her a steady look. "I said I wanted you. Did you think I would hand you back the moment it was hard?" Her throat tightened. She had expected betrayal at every turn. Yet here he was, bleeding from a cut on his arm, standing tall as if she were worth the risk of his life. The human reached for her hand again. She hesitated, fear battling with something new, trust. Slowly, her fingers slid into his, clinging like a lifeline. They left the ruined storehouse and slipped into the winding alleys of the city. Markets buzzed with life, unaware that a hunt had begun. Posters with their descriptions would soon spread. Bounty hunters would be paid in gold to drag her back. The girl walked with her head lowered, but her mind was on fire. All her life she had been told she was worthless, broken, weak. But if that were true, why had this man just risked everything for her? A thought bloomed, dangerous and impossible. Maybe I am not broken. Maybe I am something else. The human squeezed her hand once, firm and grounding. "Whatever happens," he murmured, "you're not alone anymore." For the first time, she believed him. The streets twisted like a maze, alive with morning noise. Merchants shouted their prices, children darted through narrow alleys, and the smell of smoke drifted from cooking fires. To most, it was an ordinary day, but to the girl and the human, every shadow held danger. The girl walked close at his side, her eyes darting to every corner. Whispers already followed them. She heard it. The human with the broken one, the foolish stranger, the runaway slave. The word stung, but the human's calm stride steadied her heart. They ducked into a side street, but the sound of boots soon followed. The girl froze. "They're coming again," she whispered. The human's jaw tightened. "Then we don't run. We move smart." They slipped into an abandoned courtyard. Cracked stone walls surrounded them, vines curling through broken arches. The girl's chest heaved. "What if they catch us?" He met her gaze, steady as ever. "Then we fight together." The word together struck her harder than fear. No one had ever included her in the fight. She had always been the one hidden, punished, discarded. Before she could reply, armored figures spilled into the courtyard. 5 guards this time, spears glinting. Their leader raised his weapon. "End of the road, human. Hand her over and we'll let you crawl back to your own kind." The girl's breath caught. Her body trembled, old instincts screaming at her to shrink, to stay small, to disappear. But then she saw the human, blade drawn, stance firm, ready to bleed for her. Something inside her snapped. She could not let him stand alone. The guards advanced. One lunged at the human, but another broke off, circling toward her. His grin was cruel. "The broken one won't resist." "Easy catch," her hands curled into fists. Fear burned in her chest, but beneath it something else stirred. Anger. Not the small anger she had buried for years, but a deep, wild fury. When the guard reached for her arm, she moved. Her knee shot upward, slamming into his chest. He stumbled back, shocked. The crowd of guards laughed, but the human's eyes flashed with approval. "Good," he called. "Don't stop." The guard snarled and lunged again. This time she ducked under his strike and shoved him into the wall. Her body moved without thought, driven by years of pain turned into sudden strength. She grabbed a loose stone from the ground and swung. It cracked against his helmet with a dull thud. The guard collapsed, groaning. The courtyard froze for a heartbeat. The broken girl had just fought back. The other guards roared in anger and charged. The human met 2 with his blade, swift and precise, while the girl faced the third. Her heart pounded, but the fear no longer ruled her. She dodged, ducked, struck with desperate strength. When the fight ended, 3 guards lay unmoving, 2 others crawling away. The leader spat blood and glared at them. "You'll pay for this. The hall will not stop. You are both doomed." He dragged his wounded men out, leaving silence behind. The girl stood frozen, chest heaving, her hands still trembling from the fight. She looked down at the stone in her grip, then at the fallen guard she had struck. Her voice cracked. I fought back." The human wiped his blade, then turned to her with a rare smile. "No, you stood tall. There's a difference." Her knees nearly gave out. She pressed her hands to her face, tears spilling, not from fear this time, but from the shock of her own strength. For the first time, she was not the victim. For the first time, she had defended herself. The human stepped closer, his voice low and firm. "They called you broken because they were afraid of what you could be. Today, you proved them right to be afraid." Her heart pounded with something new, pride, fragile but fierce. The city no longer looked the same. The streets were still dangerous, the merchants still hunting, but deep inside her the girl knew one truth. She was not broken. She was awakening. Night fell heavy over the city. Lanterns burned along the streets, their flames dancing in the wind. But the alleys buzzed with whispers. The hall had placed a bounty. Any who captured the broken girl and her human companion would be paid in silver and favor. The girl sat beside the human on the roof of an abandoned house. From here, she could see the towers of the merchant hall glowing like fire against the dark sky. Her heart trembled, but it no longer collapsed under fear. She had fought back. She had tasted strength. Still, the thought of facing the hall one last time made her chest tighten. "They'll never stop," she whispered. "Not until you regret choosing me." The human's gaze remained fixed on the horizon. His voice was calm, steady, the same as it had been from the first moment. "Then we end it. Not by running. Not by hiding, by showing them you are not theirs." Her throat tightened. "Me?" He turned to her, eyes sharp as steel. "Yes, this isn't my fight alone. It's yours. You are not broken, and tomorrow they'll see it." Sleep did not come easy that night. The girl's mind battled with fear and hope, with old chains and new freedom. But when dawn stretched its first light across the sky, she rose to her feet with trembling resolve. Together, they walked to the hall. Crowds already gathered, hungry for spectacle. Merchants in fine robes stood proud on the steps, guards lined in polished armor. At the center stood the announcer, his voice booming across the square. "Look here. The foolish human returns with the broken one still at his side." Laughter rolled across the crowd. "She cannot be healed. She cannot be trusted. She is worthless." The girl's knees wanted to give way. For years those words had crushed her. But then she felt the human's hand squeeze hers, firm and steady. His whisper reached her ear. "Show them who you are." She stepped forward. The crowd jeered, shouted, mocked. But her voice rose above them, trembling but clear. "You called me broken because I would not become your tool. You called me weak because I wept. You returned me because I would not bend." She raised her scarred wrists high for all to see. "But these scars are not shame. They are proof I survived you." The square fell into uneasy silence. Her words cut through the noise sharper than any blade. One merchant spat. "Empty talk." "She is nothing." The girl's eyes narrowed, a spark of fire lighting within them. "Then why do you fear me enough to call me broken? Why hunt me if I am nothing?" Murmurs rippled through the crowd. The announcer's face darkened with rage. He gestured sharply. "Seize her!" The guards moved, but the human was faster. His blade flashed, blocking their path. "She stands free," he shouted. "And I stand with her." For a moment, time seemed to stop. The guards hesitated, caught between command and doubt. The girl stepped forward again, her voice no longer trembling. "I am not broken. I am alive, and I will never belong to you." The crowd erupted, not with laughter this time, but with gasps, whispers, even cheers from those who had once pitied her. The truth could not be shoved back into silence. The announcer's fury twisted his face. He pointed at her, but his words drowned beneath the rising noise of the people. The human leaned close, his voice quiet for her alone. "They'll never forget today. Not because of me. Because of you." Tears welled in her eyes, but this time they were not from pain. They were from freedom, from strength, from the realization that she was not what they had named her. Hand in hand, they turned from the hall. Behind them, chaos rose, but ahead the streets opened wide, endless and waiting. The girl walked taller than she ever had before. She was no longer the broken one. She was chosen, by herself first and by the one who had seen her when no one else would. And as the human squeezed her hand once more, she knew this was not an ending. It was the beginning of everything.